You've probably heard it called the lungs of our planet, right? This enormous, vibrant green world, just teeming with life. But what if I told you those lungs are in trouble? I mean, serious trouble. A threat that could actually change our world forever. So let's get into the crucial story of the Amazon rainforest. First off, to really get what's at stake, you have to try and wrap your head around the sheer size of this place. We're talking 5.5 million square kilometers. It's just mind-bogglingly huge. I mean, this forest stretches across 9 different countries in South America. It is a true giant of the natural world. And packed inside that massive area, an unbelievable explosion of life. Get this, the Amazon is home to an estimated 10% of all known species on Earth. Just let that sink in for a second. 1 out of every 10 plants, animals, and insects that we know about lives right here. It's one of the most vital biodiversity hotspots on the entire globe. So that leads us to the big, kind of scary question, doesn't it? If this place is so huge, so important, and so full of life, why on earth is it vanishing right before our eyes? Okay, let's start with that famous nickname, the world's lungs. And you know what? It's way more than just a catchy phrase. The Amazon plays a massive role in keeping our planet's climate stable because it absorbs and stores just incredible amounts of carbon dioxide. But here's the heart of the problem. For the last 50 years, this forest has been shrinking, and at a pretty terrifying rate. So let's break down exactly what's driving all this destruction. So what's behind it all? Well, a lot of the main drivers are things deeply connected to our global economy. We're talking about cattle ranching for beef, huge commercial farms growing things like soybeans, which mostly become animal feed, logging for furniture and paper, and of course the roads that cut deeper into the forest, opening it all up. Now, if you look at the numbers, one of these causes just completely dwarfs the others. A whopping 70% of cleared land in the Amazon is for cattle ranching. 70%. In that part of the world, it's often one of the easiest and most profitable ways to use huge areas of land, and it's all fueled by this massive global demand for beef. And this really highlights the challenge of actually enforcing any rules. When you look at logging for valuable wood, it's estimated that a staggering 80% of it might be happening illegally. It's a huge shadow economy, and trying to control it in a forest that vast is, well, it's almost impossible. So here's the thing you have to remember. This isn't just a local problem. What happens in the Amazon doesn't stay in the Amazon. Losing the rainforest creates these huge, devastating ripple effects that are felt all around the world. Let's start with the loss of life. The numbers here are just jaw-dropping. Now, this isn't only the Amazon, but across all tropical rainforests, deforestation is estimated to be driving 137 species to extinction every single day. Plants, animals, insects, just gone, forever. To really get the climate impact, you gotta know this term, carbon sink. It sounds technical, but the idea is simple. A healthy forest is like a giant sponge for carbon dioxide. It just sucks that greenhouse gas right out of the atmosphere and locks it away safely in its trees, its plants, and its soil. So what happens when you burn that forest or cut it down for a farm? Well, that sponge gets squeezed out. All that carbon it was storing for us gets released right back into the atmosphere. The forest goes from being a huge part of the solution to a huge part of the problem. And we're not talking about a small amount either. Estimates suggest that Amazon deforestation alone is responsible for somewhere between 8 and 10% of total global carbon emissions. That is a massive contribution to climate change coming from just one region. The impacts are also felt right there, on the ground. You see, the forest actually helps create its own rain. So when you chop down the trees, you mess up the water cycles, which means less rainfall and more droughts. The rich soil washes away, and the indigenous communities who have called the forest home for centuries are often forced to leave. Okay, so it's a pretty grim picture, I know, but it's not the end of the story. Let's shift gears and look at the fight to save this incredible place and the strategies people are using to protect it. One big area of focus is just changing how things are done. So instead of destructive clear cutting, which is exactly what it sounds like, wiping everything out, there's a push for sustainable methods like selective logging. With this approach, you only take out certain trees and you leave the rest of the forest standing so it can heal and recover. And look, there's no single silver bullet for this. Saving the Amazon means tackling the problem from all sides. That means creating huge protected areas,
actively replanting trees on damaged land, building up industries like ecotourism to prove a living forest has economic value, and using cool tech like satellites to spot illegal deforestation in real time.
And this brings us to the final and maybe the most difficult part of this whole story, because all of these incredible efforts, they all run up against one core challenge: finding the right balance for the future. Ultimately, the fate of the Amazon might just boil down to this single, massive question. How do we meet the demands of a growing world, of a growing economy, without destroying the very ecosystems that keep our planet alive? The answer isn't clear yet, but the fight for the forest absolutely continues.